The village was a tapestry woven with the threads of time. Dusty lanes snaked through mud houses. The air hummed with the drone of cicadas. It was here, in this tranquil haven, that I lived with my grandmother. My parents had left for the city, their silhouettes fading into the horizon of ambition. I was left in the care of my grandmother, her love a warm embrace in the cool twilight of her years. Her hair was a crown of moonlight, her clothes the color of purity. I had never known her any other way. She was the heart of our home, her spirit as sturdy as the ancient banyan tree outside our courtyard. Her voice, though frail, held the wisdom of centuries. Her eyes, though clouded with age, still sparkled with the light of 1,000 untold stories. I would sit beside her for hours, my small hand nestled in hers, listening to tales of yore, tales of kings and queens, of love and loss, of bravery and sacrifice. Her words painted vivid pictures in the canvas of my imagination. Each morning, we would embark on our daily pilgrimage. Hand in hand, we walked along the dusty path, her steps small and measured, mine eager and impatient. Our destination was the village temple, its ancient walls echoing with the chants of Sanskrit verses. The temple served as my school, its courtyard transformed into a classroom under the watchful gaze of the gods. I learned my alphabets traced on the dusty floor, the scent of incense mingling with the murmur of prayers. My grandmother, a pillar of faith, would sit at the back, her lips moving in silent prayer. On our way back, our path was lined with strays, their tails wagging hopefully. My grandmother, her heart overflowing with compassion, always carried a pouch filled with scraps for them. She believed in sharing, even the little we had, with those less fortunate. The dogs would gather around her, their tails thumping against the ground, their eyes shining with gratitude. She would gently stroke their heads, her touch as light as a feather, her love reaching out to all creatures, big and small. Time, like the village river, flowed relentlessly. Years passed, and I grew older. My parents, their voices echoing from the bustling city, decided it was time for me to join them. Leaving the village was like tearing a page from the book of my childhood. The city, with its towering structures and cacophony of sounds, overwhelmed me. Gone was the serenity of the village, replaced by a constant hum of activity. Gone was the warmth of my grandmother's presence, replaced by the cold embrace of concrete and steel. My parents enrolled me in a modern school, its classrooms filled with the latest gadgets. I learned about computers and the internet, about science and technology. Yet, amidst the gleaming modernity, I yearned for the simplicity of my village life. Our conversations became infrequent, our letters filled with a growing distance. The thread of our bond, once strong and vibrant, began to fray at the edges. The village, once my whole world, started to feel like a distant memory. Section 4. Clash of Times, Discord of Hearts. My grandmother, a woman of tradition, found it difficult to understand my new life. She disapproved of my modern education, her beliefs rooted in the ancient wisdom of our ancestors. She couldn't fathom the need for computers and gadgets, her world bound by the simplicity of nature. She was particularly dismayed by my newfound interest in music. The modern tunes, with their loud beats and unfamiliar rhythms, were an affront to her sensibilities. She longed for the soulful melodies of the temple chants, the music that had been the soundtrack of her life. Our phone calls were often strained, our conversations punctuated by long silences. I could sense her disappointment, her disapproval hanging heavy in the air. I wanted to bridge the gap, to explain my world to her, but the words always seemed to get lost in translation. The city had woven its web around me, its allure both intoxicating and alienating. I found myself torn between the familiar comfort of my grandmother's love and the exciting possibilities of my new life. Section 5. Return and Reconciliation, Fleeting Joy. Years later, armed with a foreign degree and a heart heavy with longing, I returned to my village. The banyan tree stood tall, its branches reaching out like welcoming arms. The village, though touched by the winds of change, still held the essence of my childhood. My grandmother, her hair now whiter than the winter snow, her steps even slower than before, greeted me with a smile that lit up her entire being. The years of disapproval seemed to melt away as she embraced me, her frail body trembling with emotion. For those precious few days, I was her little boy again. I sat beside her, sharing stories of my travels, my successes and failures. She listened intently, her eyes shining with pride, her love an unwavering beacon in the twilight of her years. She even surprised me by expressing a keen interest in my music. She sat patiently as I played her my compositions, her head swaying gently to the unfamiliar rhythms. Her acceptance, so unexpected and unconditional, filled me with a profound sense of peace. Section 6. Silent Mourners, A Sparrow's Farewell. But our reunion was short-lived. Soon after my arrival, my grandmother fell ill. Her frail body, weakened by age and the passage of time, finally succumbed to the inevitable. Her passing was peaceful, like a leaf gently floating down from a tree. The village gathered to pay their respects, their faces etched with sorrow. As we performed her last rites, I noticed a flock of sparrows perched quietly on the branches of the banyan tree. They seemed to be mourning her passing, their silence speaking volumes. The sparrows had always been her companions, their chirping a constant presence in our lives. She fed them every day, sharing her meager meals with these feathered friends. In their silent vigil, I saw a testament to her boundless compassion, a love that extended beyond the confines of our home. As the flames consumed her mortal remains, I felt a sense of profound loss, yet also a strange sense of peace. Her love, like the sparrows, would always be with me, a timeless melody echoing in the chambers of my heart.